Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle. Tonight, lots of talking points on a weekend in which your starter for 10, Stell's normally pretty good on the quiz questions. When was the last time Notts and Wrexham played on the same day and neither of them won? Okay, off you go. Wikipedia, whatever it is, you might know it off the top of your head. I don't actually know the answer. I've just thrown it out there to see how quickly our flock can come up with an answer. Evening, Stout. Don't if you do know it, don't say it. Do you know the answer to that one?
Well, I'm assuming you mean him not Saturday.
Obviously.
Yeah. No, I don't. No, I don't know that one. That is not something I've got. No, I don't know. And it'd be interesting. It must have happened this season, I suppose, but there's not many opportunities for it to have happened. But no, I'm fine, but I don't know the answer to your question.
No, well, neither do I, but we'll see how quickly some of our experts in the flock can come up with the answer. Talking points tonight, then. So, we're grateful for a draw. Wrexham will be gutted with a draw, I guess, is the takeaway from the weekend. Mark Stellard has now got on to blackout. For those of you watching live, if you listen to the audio, you're in blissful ignorance. He's back again. Don't know what happened there.
Phone call.
Plunged into the darkness. Tiernan Brooks, yeah. A lot of goodwill towards Tiernan. Gets his big chance. We'll hear from Stella in a moment on what he thought of Tiernan's big debut. No, there's a huge amount of goodwill towards him. A lot of people wanting to see him break in and become, I think, a regular. You know, we've spoken before on the show about fans. Nothing more they like than to see a player, homegrown talent. He's a Yorkshire lad, but he's come through the ranks. Nothing better than to see a young boy make it come through the academy and into the first team. It's Dorking coming up Saturday. The only team, I think I'm right in saying, the only team that can complete a league double over us. What do you reckon? Macaulay Langstaff called up to the England C squad. If I've got my dates right, that's in between Barnet away and Scunthorpe at home. I believe it's in the midweek. Remember all the shenanigans with Kel Roberts? Wasn't playing for us, played for England C for about 75 minutes. Something tells me it might be the other way around this time. What else have we got this evening? All those who watched, thank you to Nick at the club for organising our owners, Christoph and Alex Reitz for doing a great one-on-one session last week. Any thoughts, takeaways from what you heard the chairman say? Encouraged, here for the long haul, losing money every year in the National League. I would estimate that north of £1 million, less than 2, but costing them a lot of money. But they're here for the long haul is what they are saying. And that's got to be good news. I think that's about it for the talking points tonight. Plenty of you already on the show. NICAM says it's Magpie Circle time. NICAM adds get the beers in. Alcohol-free zone when we're broadcasting, unless it's Chloe who has the large gin and tonics. Malcolm Shearston, evening. Do you think teams with plastic pitches have an unfair advantage? Depends what you call unfair, but statistically, the number of teams, we spoke about it last week, Malcolm, the number of teams that get promotion with a synthetic surface far outweighs, or is a higher percentage than clubs with grass pitches. Hello, everyone, says Karen Knight. Duncan Comrie really enjoyed the Owners podcast. How refreshing to have such lovely people in charge. John Doe says, evening. Stell, right. Bromley, 92, 93 minutes, whatever it was. Curses all round. 2 hours later, or an hour and a bit later, Wrexham are looking good for the 3 points going into stoppage time. We're all backing them to get another penalty, and they get pegged back. Such are the fine margins and how people's perceptions and views of performances can change, encapsulated in the last minute, really, of each of those 2 games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yet again, it was the Notts County roller coaster, wasn't it? It all encapsulated in about 5 hours on a Saturday afternoon. to take the Bromley game, I mean, that was a roller coaster in itself. First off, not poor, really. Just again, we'll talk possibly refereeing decisions. And Tiernan Brooks, comes in, makes his debut. We didn't know until we got to the ground that we got the whisper of Sam Slocum's injury that he'd picked up. So, we wondered who was going to be in goal. And Tiernan got the nod and did very well. Saved a penalty within the first 10 minutes of his debut. That's something to remember for him. Acquitted himself really well. He just had one moment that could have been a penalty, should have been a penalty probably, but he got away with it. But other than that, everything else he did was fine, absolutely no problem whatsoever. So really good. That should give him a boost, give him the confidence that he can play at that level. I'm sure he didn't maybe need that boost, but it's always good to get that first game under your belt. He will have been nervous, no two ways about it. But to go back to the team performance, first off, they looked a little bit all over the shop, a little bit ragged. And Bromley looked very good. 6 and 2 threes is which way you want to see it. Were Bromley so good it made Notts look ordinary? Or were Notts just poor? So, just a blessing in disguise to go in at 1-0 down and then back to normal service being resumed in the second half. It was all Notts dominant, but you felt that they missed the opportunity to get an equaliser. When Connor Evans put the ball wide from 6-7 yards out, the sort of sitter that we didn't take against Dagenham that cost us. And you're thinking, it's not going to be one of them days again. But hey, when you've got Macaulay Langstaff, you're never certain of one of them days. So, but even then you're thinking, well, a point is not great. It's not the worst because Bromley are a decent team and it's a tough place to go to. It's our first point against Bromley, isn't it, down there? But, you still felt, Wrexham, if they go and win, there's a bit of daylight opening up, and then what do we know? Last minute goal again. I mean, we were driving up, me and Charlie driving up after the game on the motorway, and he's got it on his phone, his BT connection app or whatever it is, and it was coming through the speakers. And of course, at 2-1, we go, Mullin hits the bar about 5 minutes or so before the equaliser, and then was it Mikulski got the equaliser? Could be an important goal for Notts, that. Yeah. So, and all of a sudden you come away from Saturday thinking, do you know what? You're on a little bit of an up. After the roller coaster, the ups, the downs, or the downs and the ups, you come off going, well, I'll tell you what, that feels more positive. It's obviously as you were in terms of points and positions and everything, but it just felt like, we've just made a little bit of ground there because we were expecting to be, 3 points behind. Well, we're not. It's a point and one game. So, there's going to be twists and turns. That's one thing we say. There's going to be twists and turns.
Right. It looks like Ian Cooksey has got the answer. Hang on, let me pull it up. Right. So, the last time that Notts and Wrexham both played together, same day, when neither of them won, Stel. Well, this is. I have no reason to disbelieve Ian, but I'm sure other people will correct him if he's wrong. 13th of August. Boreham Wood 2, Notts 2, Yeovil 1, Wrexham 1.
Yeah, second game of the season then.
Very early on that, wasn't it?
Yeah,
very early.
Second game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've got no facts proving it, but saying it's wrong. So yeah, well done. Yeah. Good question.
What's coming on? If it's not right, Ian will be put right.
You're going to have to start giving prizes soon for these questions.
Well researched. He's obviously gone through all the matches, hasn't he, in the National League this season, all the way back. So very good, Ian. Let's just stick on with Tiernan Brooks for a minute. Yeah, his shirt's there, among other goalkeeping shirts you can see. Sam, the one on the end, green shirt. Sports Logic. That was Darren Ward's goalkeeping shirt at Notts, believe it or not. And someone made a point I read somewhere that Darren Ward had already got 80, 90 games under his belt before he was 21. He was a first teamer at Mansfield from, the age of 18, 19. Where are you with Tiernan Brooks as a potential successor to Sam Slocum, Stel?
Well, I mean, I've got to hold my hands up and say I haven't seen a great deal of him. Saturday we saw, and one thing I will say, I obviously played with Wardy back in the day,
Yes,
and he was a really good goalkeeper. Came from Mansfield, and he got his
that's it.
he got his experience. He got them 80 or 90 games at
Yeah,
Mansfield before he came to Notts. And he was a really well. Went on to play international, didn't he, for Wales, and he was a top goalkeeper. But you can't substitute experience and playing in men's competitive football when it matters. And now Tiernan's been out on loan, Boston, Hensford was it as well? He's been out
yeah,
to, maybe Colville was it previously? I don't know
yes,
where.
yeah.
But he's, at an age, he's still only 20. So to get that competitive football, yes, you might say, okay, the level isn't, where he's going to want to play, but you've got to get that experience from somewhere. And being a goalkeeper is that funny position whereby generally everybody has a number one.
Mm,
And, how often do goalies get suspended? Well, rarely. How often do goalies get injured? Well, that can obviously happen because we've seen it. But then usually clubs go out and replace them. Now, he's been in the position over the last couple of years whereby he's been the young goalkeeper, but again, with no experience, with nothing on his CV particularly, other than being seen in training, he's got to go out and get that experience. And he's gone and done that so that now, Luke Williams is in the position this week of we've got a lone goalkeeper in, again, a young lad, Archie Mayer, coming from Norwich, who, didn't have a great time when he did play in the trophy. Earlier on in the season when he first came in, but he was new to the club then. But obviously they see them in training side by side after that, and to have that choice and to go with Tiernan, I think that shows how well he's doing, how well he's thought of, and should for him be a big boost, a big confidence boost, and a pat on the back to say you've got a manager here who believes in you. No, of
mm,
course, you're 20 years of age. You are not first choice keeper. Sam Slocum is, but you've got a manager who is, when push comes to shove, and there is another option, you're still going to get the nod. So I think for him, that should be a big boost, a big fillip. Whether we now go out and get another goalkeeper in, we'll wait and see. But if I was Tiernan Brooks, I would take that as a massive compliment to say it wasn't a case of, look, I was the only goalkeeper in the building. It
yes,
wasn't that at all. And he came in and he acquitted himself really well. And like I say, once you've got that debut out of the way, that is the first step at a new level for him. He'll have enjoyed it. He'll have been nervous, as I say, but he'll relish that for the rest of his life. That cannot be taken away from him. And now he'll want to build on it. Once you have a taste, you want to taste even more of it. So he'll be hungry to keep his place, and he'll be hoping that they don't bring a keeper in, obviously. But we'll wait and see. I don't know whether they will or they won't. Listening to Luke was quite guarded after the game with his questions, and I think it wouldn't surprise me if they were looking to bring a more senior, established keeper in for what it is, 3 games or whatever that Sam might miss.
yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I'm not quite sure how many loan keepers you can have because obviously we've already got one. And like you said, well done to Tiernan because presumably, if you thought Tiernan was a ready-made number two, you wouldn't have bought the lad Mayor in from Norwich because why would you? So it would be interesting to see what they do. But first 10 minutes, Stel, your debut, yeah, penalty, you save it. You're thinking, what's this all about? Eh, this is nice and
Yeah.
easy. Eh, instant hero.
Well, I mean, he couldn't have had a more sort of active, straight in at the deep end first half of the game, could he? Your first half of your debut in the league, say saving a penalty within 10 minutes, then somehow being deemed to concede a penalty 10 minutes or so later, which, like I say, me and Charlie, and I've only seen the footage from their camera. It's on the opposite side of the ground we
Yeah,
were commentating on, and it's not a very good angle at all to see. But I can assure you, we were the opposite side, and we saw he firmly, as the lad's gone through, he's firmly got a hand on the ball, touched it onto the lads, kicked it off the end of the pitch, gone down, and the refs fell for it, but I don't know, it wasn't diving, but the ref's gone for it, obviously not seen the touch on the ball. We clearly saw it, so that wasn't a penalty. But, again, as a young lad, you're deemed to have conceded a penalty in the first 20 minutes of your debut, whatever it is, which they score, then goes on and has, the one moment he will maybe relive again and again, thank his lucky stars, where he just has a poor touch inside the penalty area, gets the ball a little bit stuck under his feet, and the lad comes, closes him down, and somehow we get away with a free kick a foot outside the box when it was quite clearly probably about a yard inside the box. So all in all, for that to happen in your first 45 minutes as a goalkeeper, I mean, credit to him. Like I say, didn't put a foot wrong in the second half. He didn't have a load to do, not to improve, but, made the saves that he was needed to save, and his distribution was decent. So, what an introduction to I say league football. It's non-league football, isn't it? But to a new level of football for him, and he can be very proud of it.
Some comments coming in from our flock. James Ford says, I feel for Brooks as probably any other season he'd be in till the end of the season. Not sure we can risk it in the current position. But then who can we find that would come in already playing the style that we play? Chris B says, if Slocum is back in a couple of weeks, I'd stick with Brooks. Some other thoughts on it. Jurgen Halligan couldn't understand why Mayer on the bench, a squad that thin. I'm guessing there, Jurgen, it's a lad making his debut. If it all goes wrong, and let's be honest, he could have been sent off. That's when that I'm presuming is why Luke would have gone with the extra option of a goalkeeper on the bench when normally he doesn't. Chris Gosling says, what's the point in getting another academy keeper who doesn't know how we play? For Brooks to perform like that on an artificial surface is a testament to his potential. Rich Hawksworth, I am looking as we speak at my Steve Cherry fridge magnet on my office wall. If only we could bring him in for a month. Steph Milek, here's a name from this is PS pre-Stallard. Is Bob Catlin still available? Bloody hell. Okay. Aussie guy on Facebook, I know he keeps in touch with Notts, understudy for many years. I think he might have played about 1 or 2 games in about 5 or 6 years. We've got some corrections here. Ian Cooks has corrected himself. 17th of September, not August. Dorking 3, Notts 1, and it was Southend 0, Wrexham 0. Ian says Brooks should play. They are an economy of words to give his opinion. Dave Woolley, any other season I'd stick with Tiernan, but we can't afford to risk his inexperience. The boy has a great future. Okay. That's kind of the Tiernan Brooks debate. Let's move on. End of the game. Macaulay Langstaff. So gets another one. And then we get news that he's been called up for the England C squad against Wales. It's in midweek. It's in between 2 Notts games. And it would appear there's a deliberate policy by the National League to spread out the players, basically 1 per club. Stel, you are Luke Williams. I know you wouldn't be keen. I guess we're talking dark arts here. Is there any way, as a manager in Luke Williams' position, you would allow Macaulay Langstaff to join up with that international squad after Barnet before Scunthorpe?
Economy of words, no. To elaborate,
you wouldn't be saying, Stel, get in then.
Get out. Yeah. Get out. Look, the proper answer is, and you're right, and for those that don't know, obviously they've probably seen the squad, but it is virtually one from each team, isn't it? No more than 1 from any team. Generally an under 25 squad. Yet I think I did see a thing where Macaulay's actually the oldest in the squad. He's the only one maybe just over that under 25 bit. But no chance. Part of it comes down to how much you value the game, the representative game. Yes, it's England. Yes, we've had Notts players in it before with Matty Palmer, Richard Brinley, and Cal Roberts last season. I think at that time it was a more representative team, i.e., the best of the National League. Without wanting to sound unduly harsh, this isn't the best of the National League that they picked. This is, the best of one from every team, with certain exceptions left out. So, but if I'm Notts County manager, I'm pulling Macaulay Langstaff and going, congratulations, absolutely well earned. Of course it is, but you've got bigger ambitions than this. Your biggest defining moment of your career is not going to be a non-league England cap, and I'm afraid we'll let you go and join up with the squad if that's what you want to do, and we'll have a word with the manager, Chris Fairclough, not Chris Fairclough,
Paul Fairclough.
Paul Fairclough, yeah. We'll have a word with the manager. You can go and join up, and you can get your cap, and whatever the minimum requirement is to get your cap, you can get it. So if you need 10 seconds on the pitch, you can do that, but you aren't allowed to run. You aren't allowed to contact any player or whatever. You're not allowed to do anything untoward. And in an ideal, we're realistic. I'm saying, look, you know where you want to be. You know where the club wants to be. We've got bigger fish to fry. We've got less than 10 games left of an absolute titanic, 2-club battle of a run-in. Wrexham's representative, Sam Dolby, is not what you would call the same quality of, not the same sort of impact of player if he went and got injured, so I would just, it'd be an over my dead body kind of thing, unfortunately. And as much of a pat on the back and reward it is to be recognised, no, you've got bigger things to look at. The bigger picture is so much more important than one, meaningless sort of England C game against Wales. Say go get your representative. They've picked you. They've chose you. That's enough recognition. But you want to be in the Football League next year. In 3 months, 4 months' time. This is not going to be the pinnacle of your career. So, unfortunately, on the basis of where we are, and I'm sure as a player, I'm sure he would understand that. I'm absolutely certain of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be taking a leaf out of Alex Ferguson's book, Ryan Giggs, Wales. I don't think he played for a friendly for Wales for something like about 12 years,
Yeah.
And I think you can call it dark arts, you call it what you will. I think were England C or whoever digging their heels in, I think you say up until Saturday evening, yeah, he's fine. We'll send him. Great honour. Sunday morning, he's injured. He ain't coming. End of story. Sue me. Do whatever you want. Take the fine. I don't know what they can and can't do. He's just not going. And I just be completely blunt about it. It'd be interesting to see whether Notts are able to engineer a situation where Macaulay gets withdrawn a week before, 2 weeks before. I don't know. It's interesting that they've named him in the squad in the first place. On the face of all those individual players, Notts ultimately stand to lose the most of any of those one players, really, in terms of importance to the team, don't they? You've mentioned Wrexham, but if there's one man that's a focal point of a team in terms of his goals scored, then it's Macca. It's fairly unanimous across the board on our messages. Let's have a look. The C. This is a good point from Chris Gosling. The C squad should be picked on the basis it was originally created for, which was for those players who don't play professionally. So I guess you're kind of then dropping it down to National League North, National League South. I think the Wales squad is kind of just the National League of Wales or the Welsh National League, whatever that's called these days. Dave, well, it would be madness to let him go to England. Said, Macra's been sneezing, couldn't possibly go. Stell can go instead. I'm not sure what you like with Paul Fairclough. Jurgen Halligan points out, if were he to get injured on international duty, we don't have a striker. Chris B, tell them we can have Mitchell instead. A bit naughty that one, but I get the drift. I will be staggered if he plays. Absolutely staggered. And I just think Notts have got to stand the ground. If the FA dig in. Returning back to the goalkeeping situation, and who could you get in if you were looking for alternative? An interesting one, Dogs UK. I'd approach Bristol Rovers for James Belshaw on loan for the rest of the season. Dogs may have more knowledge than me. I don't know whether James is starting at Bristol Rovers at the minute or not. James is a massive Notts County fan, Notts County family. Used to go to the Beckett School. Always said he would love to play for Notts before he ends his career. Obviously did rather well for us for Harrogate against Notts in the playoff final. That's an interesting shout. Although in many respects I quite like Tiernan to be given a go, but I get the point that if he plays and doesn't do as well, then clearly he's going to be a focal point. What else have we got? Right, okay. Well, we've been debating Macaulay. How many goals he got this season? Still, I lose track. 33.
Macca 33. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Quick poll. Fingers on keyboards. How many goals? Let's see who's going to be right. Will Macaulay Langstaff end with? Not counting England C, obviously, in the unlikely event he plays for him. How many goals is Macaulay Langstaff going to end up with? Is he going to hit 40? I think he's going to be like a key debate. What do you think? How many? Stel, will he hit 40? And we're not wanting to tempt fate here at all. I'm reminded of Martin Allen a couple of weeks ago on the show, and a lot of people disagreed with him, but he said Wrexham and Notts will both drop more points than you think because of the pressures on them, injuries, and all the rest of it. And he's right in the respect of Saturday, where both teams dropped points on the same weekend for the first time since September. So, would you, fitness, be backing Macca to get 40 or not?
Yes, based on his, scored all throughout the season. Based on, I think he's got 11 in his last 9 games.
Yeah.
Based on who we've got to play. Based on the fact we've got to win games, we're now the chasing team. Yeah, I'd back on him. I'd back on him being closer to 45 than 40. I'm not joking.
Yeah. Well, so that gives us a great shout. Jurgen Halligan just correcting on the Bristol Rovers James Belshaw. Belshaw played against Bristol Rovers, so can't see that. So he's still getting regular first team football, which would obviously make that a lot less likely. Right, here we go. You've been busy. Here's the stats for. We don't like stats normally, but anyway, here's the predictions for Macca's total goals tally. Dogs UK 42. NI Cam 44, Glyn C 42, Jurgen Halligan 41, Ian 43, Nick G 43, Paul Huskisson 45, Steph Milek 39, Duncan Comrie 41, Chris Gosling 42, James Shipley 42, Ian Cooksey 44, Alan Cotty 42, Pythagorean 44, Keith Cook 44, Malcolm Shearston 42, Stephen Newton 42, David Amy 45, hang on, I'm losing track, Zedo 41st against York, which is the final day of the season. Stuart, I said 36 at the beginning of the season. Now I'm saying 42. Dogs UK, you'll get a hat-trick on Saturday. John Pearl, 41. Ady Clark, 41. Last goal against York, a penalty. Go the whole hog, Ady, to give Clinch's automatic promotion in the 98th minute. Chris John Wright, we've not asked for this, but Wrexham 2, Dagenham 1 tomorrow. They reversed that. I was just going to ask if Dale's about, Dale Pikey. Dale put a bet on for Macca to be top scorer in the National League this season. I can't remember the odds now, but they weren't bad. My bet is still looking good for Macca to be National League top scorer. James Shipley. Dean Henderson, it's the Forest keeper, will need a game. Been kept out by Kayla Navas. Well, he's injured, isn't he? Kayla Navas. Chris Gosling, have you been offered a cash out, Dale? Well, stick with it. So I think, obviously, a lot of goodwill and a lot of confidence in Macca hitting 40 plus. Do you think realistically, Stel, for Notts to have a shot at pipping Wrexham, Macca has got to get into the 40s?
I would think, yeah, there's got to be. They've certainly got to score a decent number of goals, haven't they? They've got to win games. Yeah. If it's not going to be Macca, then obviously we've got others who can score it. But I think that's not an outrageous shout, is it? To say that if we are going to be top of the pile, we probably need Macca to get from here to 40 and 40 plus. And obviously we need others to chip in as well. But like I say, I think when you look at the games we've got coming up and the fact that we're chasing, you heard it here first, and it seems like most people seem to agree, closer to 45 than 40. But the big question, well, he's got to stay fit. Of course he has, and I'm touching wood all the while throughout that, because we've had that problem throughout the season. And again, we're back to the England C question of, does he need that game? Why on earth would you let him out your sight for any longer than you have to? And Luke Williams, again, not to harbour the point, but to labour the point, to say, he's been on about the times he's had to rest Macca by taking him off this season. So he's certainly not going to want to okay him to go and have an extra 60 minutes, 80 minutes, 90 minutes, or even 10 minutes for an England C game.
Yeah, it's travelling and all those little things, isn't it, when you're looking for players to be resting up at that point of the season. Jack Lee says, I put the same bet on as Dale, 25 to 1, but I only put £7 on. Hey, still not be bad. Steph Milek to Stel, what attributes does Macca have that you wish you'd had, and what attributes do you think he can still improve upon?
Oh, well, pace. He's got pace. He's got
I knew
legs,
you'd say that. I knew
mobility.
You'd say that.
Any other. I mean, I would have loved that. I would have loved all that. But it's more than that. He's got more than that. He's clever, and this is the one thing that's impressed me massively watching him throughout the season. You see him come in, obviously a decent reputation, but at National League North level, and you think, well, he's 24, 25 when he came in. Why is he not played at any higher level? There's got to be a reason, and is it something technical? Has he just had a worldie of a season last season where everything's clicked? But this season, I can tell you, just technical ability. And I think Luke Williams will probably take some credit for this as well.
But changing position, yeah,
absolutely. But for the player himself, the way he's done the job, he's almost like a typical goal scorer. You don't see him a lot for large parts of a game, but then one through ball, a bit like certainly Ruben's through ball, he's in between defenders, and it's the movement. It's not just, he's got the legs and the mobility to be on the move, and the ball just happens to pop into his feet, and he's in the right place. His movement is clever. He's always looking to be in between defenders. He doesn't just stand next to them. He doesn't just stand up there and be easy to mark. He's always looking to move, and it's the timing of the movement as well. Not to try and get too technical in everything, but you can move all the time. You could employ a long distance runner to play up front and go, well, just be on the move. They'd run all day long. But 99 times out of it, they'd be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Goal scorers and somebody like Macca is in the right place at the right time a hell of a lot for it to be a coincidence. It's intelligent movement. It's appreciation of what's going on. It's knowing your teammates, knowing their attributes, knowing when they're going to play a pass, knowing when to make you run, knowing where the space is to make you run. I think he's and then he's finishing after that. I mean, his finishing is, there's not many times we've seen him miss chances this season. All strikers do. He has, of course, but I think he's finishing sort of stats are phenomenal when he gets in them positions. I think he's impressed me more and more and more as the season's gone on. From one old way past it striker of a different ilk to a modern day new striker, he's impressed me more and more. Really, really impressed at the step up. And the only question is, to what level can he go on and perform? And like I say, it's an unanswerable sort of question, but he looks like he's got the attributes that could take him obviously into the Football League and then some. So he's been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Plenty of it's busy on the old message boards here. Chris Gosling says, don't underestimate Jody Jones's part in the goal Saturday, only playing his second 90 and showed great pace and strength to chase back, win the ball and keep the attack live. Steph Mardick says, thank you for that answer, Stel. Let's be honest, you made up for the lack of pace with your reading of the game to be one step, I think. As the late Colin Slater said, you were always Johnny on the spot. Jurgen points out, I've not worked this one out, if Altrincham win their FA Trophy tie on Saturday, they can't play us on Saturday the 1st of April, April Fool's Day, as that is a semi-final date, is it? Okay. Now, there's also a debate. Not to strength of squad, we're picking up injuries. Keeper, Kedwin's still out. Aidan suspended. We're seeing Chesterfield being quite busy. I think Dallas has gone today on loan for the rest of the season. There's debate about some talk about them getting one or two other players. Would you be looking into the loan market again at the moment, Stel, or sticking with what we've got?
No, I without knowing exactly how long a few players are going to be, but the sort of the word is that there's a few players going to be missing for a while.
Yes.
I think when you and again the acid test is generally you look at the bench, don't you, from the previous game or games. I think when you look at the bench Saturday, there was signs of it just looking a little bit thin. The fact we've got a goalkeeper on there, Joel Taylor was back on there, who's not been in favour since the very first sort of game or two of the season, and has been out on loan. Frank Vincent's not available at the minute, and he's been out on loan as well. So I think it is again just looking at that accumulation of knocks and niggles that probably another body would not be a bad thing at all. Very difficult, and probably not. You're not going to bring in somebody who's going to go straight into the team. Very difficult to bring anyone in at this stage of the season like that. But just to have a decent replacement, you looked at Connor Lemonade-Evans coming off the bench Saturday. He's a good replacement to have. Yes. John Bostock, obviously a good replacement. He's interchangeable. Jim O'Brien. I'm not saying we are weak on the bench, but when you go beyond the 5 that were on the bench on Saturday, of which one was Archie Mayer, I don't know who was, if anybody, was travelling and was fit, but just wasn't in the 16. I think that might well have been the 16. So, I think it might well be worth getting another body. The good thing is, we haven't got, we've got Eastleigh next Tuesday, and that should be, barring this Altrincham match, the game being rearranged, that should be the last Tuesday of the season. So there is a little bit of time to bring somebody in and integrate them into the way of playing, into the squad. But it would only be, like I say, somebody who, as always, they've got to be good enough, but they are going to have to be somebody who's content with a place probably on the bench.
But with that in mind, were you surprised that Ed Francis went out on loan to Gateshead on Friday?
Not really, because I think where Ed Francis plays is not a position we are short of. I think Ed Francis plays the holding midfield role. He doesn't. I don't think there's really too many he could maybe drop in as a centre half, but I don't think, that's his position. I don't think that's a position we're short of. And maybe my thinking was that Ed Francis went out on loan to maybe free up a little bit of money to bring somebody else into the squad, not a like-for-like replacement, but another body to come in. We shall watch this space maybe over the next couple of 3 days. But no, Ed Francis, to me, hasn't got that versatility to go and play in a number of different positions. I think he was very much a central sort of holding defender, holding midfield player, and we've got that position covered.
Okay. Chris Gosling asked, Paul, are you not getting Mark White in for a pre-match special? Mark is the well, owner, chairman, manager, does it all at Dorking. He's such good entertainment, although he'd have to broadcast after 9. Yeah, we're hoping to have him on the show later this week. It was certainly entertaining with me and Stell last time when he was he was happy to do a broadcast being videoed while he was driving the car. We had to knock that one on the head, but no, he's good value, and we should hopefully have him later this week. And of course, I mean, interestingly, Dorking are the only team that could complete a league double over Notts County this season. Remarkable, really, Stel.
Yeah, it is. I mean, 2 defeats all season, and obviously one of them was the first one of the season was at Dorking. Obviously, as we remember, and again a bizarre game that had a little bit of an echo of the Dagenham game, the other week, where it was one of them days we created numerous chances and didn't take them on their interesting surface, shall we say, again, plastic pitches and that I mean, yeah. But, they go up the other end last 10 minutes or injury time, don't they, and 2 goals and win the game. I expect a very different game this Saturday against the team that has got statistically the poorest.
It's going to be a battle for them to stay up, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, and like I say, when you struggle, it's generally because you concede goals, and they've got, like I say, statistically the poorest defensive record in the league. So, what don't you want to meet when you're conceding goals is come up against the league's leading scorer and a team that has scored as many goals as anybody else this season. So I'm expecting a different game on grass, big Meadow Lane pitch. I'm expecting a different game. But hey, we saw against Dagenham that if you count your chickens, then you can get stung. So, and one thing Dorking do is they have a threat going forward. They play very, very open.
Yes.
Very, very open. So I jokingly said at the weekend it could be 9-4. And I'm not going to put money on that, but you heard it here first, just in case. But yeah, I'd expect goals. I expect a Notts win, and I'm sure everybody does. But like any game, you cannot take it lightly.
Yeah, I mean, I do actually hope Dorking stay up because I think they're a beacon of hope for all other clubs, no matter where you are in the pyramid. And the pyramid is so important to English football that you can move up, and of course, as we know, to our costs, you can move down it as well. And I think they are, in many respects, a bit of an inspiration to everybody else. I mean, yeah, the pitch, which I suspect we mentioned last time on the show, is looking to try and get sorted. But but when you look at what they've done, and he clearly is a great character. £300 bar tab for Notts fans to get in the pub. Likewise, Wrexham, brilliant, really. So we'll have a chat with him, of course. And they do have a really decent striker, don't you, in McShane? And there's a few people on the message board as we speak. Oh, love to get him in after Saturday and all of that. I suspect they'll need his goals to stay up. You were talking about strengthening the team. Your one, do you go for? Is there an argument for a really old head, a non-league style Charlie Austin or something like that? Do you know what I mean? But not necessarily that identikit that we have signed with great success. But is there an argument just for that little bit more goals power? Given Kedwin is out injured at the minute, and we rely hugely on Macca.
I don't see that as so much of a problem, if I'm absolutely honest, because I think we're, so I don't want to say, but top heavy in terms of attacking options now. Okay. And the thing is, Macaulay Langstaff's always going to play as long as he's fit. Now with Kedwin out, say, touching wood, God forbid, if he gets injured, then you start looking at who's going to play that middle man. But you say non-league Charlie Austin type, I get what you get the thinking, but he wouldn't play. He just wouldn't play in the way that Notts play. He wouldn't play because you've now got, the players that play off of Macaulay Langstaff. You've got the likes of Sam Austin, Ruben, Jody Jones can go and do that job. Connor Lemonade Evans can go and do that job.
20 minutes, half an hour. It's level, that sort of thing. Impact off the bench, give you something.
Possibly. What I've advocated for a while would be a slightly different option for when, a bit like Bromley, when we are maybe chasing a game and it's not happened for us, and something different, a big physical presence in the penalty area. I was saying on Saturday about potentially chucking Connor Rawlinson up front as a bit of height, because we were. I mean, I don't have the stats, but they will have the stats on box entries and crosses into the box, and we had umpteen. It was attack v defence in the second half, and how we've only got one goal out of it is sort of beyond us. But we had that many balls into the box that you did just wonder. It's not how we play. We don't have that big man. We're not going to sort of move McCauley and go, well, you're not playing. We're going to play a big man instead. But as an option off the bench, yes, I take that on board, and it's something that I wouldn't disagree with. Again, difficult to find the right people. Of course it is. But for certain scenarios, and Saturday would have been one of them, to go, let's go and throw an extra big body in there. He'll take the eyes of the defenders away, maybe attract them, and maybe free up a bit of space for Macca or whoever it might be. But by the by, that's me. I think predominantly, if we're talking going back to loans, I think we have to, depending on how long Richard Brindley's going to be, I would like to see us find a defensive player, somebody to fit in who's comfortable with the ball. Aidan Baldwin's out. Obviously only for one more game, but I just think the Yeovil game when Baldwin was rested, and Saturday stuck out like a sore thumb to me, that when he's missing and everything we build up from the back is difficult. And I think, not to go back to Tiernan Brooks too much, but that made his debut slightly more impressive, because he didn't have Aidan Baldwin. So it was a reshuffled back three in front of him, or defence in front of him in the first half. There wasn't that solidity in front of him, that uniform defence, that he knows each other well. So I would like to maybe see somebody else for the running. If Richard Brindley's not going to be fit, obviously Aidan Baldwin's going to be back after the next game, but I would just like to see maybe somebody there, just somebody to fill in, if Brindley isn't going to become available between now and the end of the season, which I don't know whether he is or he isn't.
Paul Brain does ask, how long is Kedwin Scott out for? Anyone know? Short answer is no. I don't necessarily think it's short term, though. I think I think there might be a week or two yet. I might be totally wrong, but I'm not sure it's imminent. Zedo says maybe need a centre half, picking up on your points, Dale, to cover defence. Threat from corners. We are poor at set pieces. Would be great to score a few from them in the last few games as well. Deadlines for signing of players. Ian Cooksey, National League clubs can still sign players until the end of March, including from Premier League and EFL clubs. So we've got a few weeks to sort things out, or whatever does and doesn't happen. The Wrexham game, so that is now confirmed for 3 p.m. on Easter Monday. So kind of as you were, BT Sport have, I think it's 4 channels. So I think basically they were rejigging some of the schedules, and I'm not sure which channel particularly it's on, but it's on 3 p.m. on the Easter Monday, and I think that's a result for all concerned. Still, we'll still want more than, I believe it's going to be about 900 seats for the game. But of course, it does now mean everyone can basically get access to watch the game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was always going to be on the telly.
Yes.
For me, I've not seen any evidence that it's not the biggest game in National League history. We sort of posed that question. Yes, a little bit narcissistic that we're involved in, but yeah, it's just a shame we couldn't find a ground big enough at Meadow Lane that could have held the amount of fans that would want to watch it. Because I think you'd sell. Well, you'd sell any number of tickets for it, because it is that big of a game. So no surprise it's on the telly. It was just a question whether they moved it away from 3:00 on the bank holiday. They haven't. So, like I say, hopefully there's a big audience to watch Notts win.
Yeah, I tell you what was interesting when I was in Los Angeles, as you do, and I was watching Notts stream against Dagenham. I was up for breakfast, and I'm getting me tenner, I'm getting the credit card out to pay the tenner or whatever it is, and on the stream, it was actually free, didn't need to pay, which I thought was quite good from the National League, because I would have willingly paid a tenner. Now, so whether that means, well, I suppose it's different because I was out of the area. But no, I was expecting to pay a tenner, and you just get to watch it for free on the National League app when it's the BT game when you're abroad. So any Notts fans, I might get this wrong, who are out of the country for the Wrexham game, you can go on to National League Play, and you should be able to get it for free. So there you go. Anyway, we'll see. If you don't sue me. We're coming towards the end of the programme. Our owners, Alexander and Christoph Reitz, or Christoph because he's the boss man, and Alexander Reitz, I should say, in terms of the right order. Had them on the show for an hour or 50 minutes last week. Very popular, as you would expect. I asked them your question, Stel, as well. I asked them your question. I know you had a little watch of it. Is it getting under their skin? As we all know, they spoke very well, but they are relatively reserved people. So I think Alexander's answer to your question was, I do get a little bit emotional, but not overly emotional, I think was the gist.
Yeah, which doesn't surprise anybody, does it really? But but that's fine. We're not going to. I almost ask it because we know that they are reserved in the way that they go about. Hey, don't know about their private. Like, do what they like in the private life. But the way they've come across as football owners is as reserved as football owners ever are. And that is a massive, massive plus point. So it was almost a chance to get to know that it does affect them, that it does matter, that it does, it is more than a business proposition. You become emotionally attached to it and to the club, and I'm sure they are, and absolutely, like I say, I checked in that, and the other podcasts that they did, the Notts County Talk lads, and it's great that they give their time up to do club podcasts and things like that. It all helps harbour this good relationship between the fans, the owners, the players on the pitch, obviously, and that's what you need. Everybody just pulling in the same direction, and they are. You don't want them to be what they're not. You don't want them to try and pretend to be something that they're not, or come on and sort of wax lyrical about stuff and not mean it. When they say, or we certainly hope we know when they say, when it's a long-term project, they're here for the long term. That, one thing that stuck out to me was the answer where they say their business plan, if you like, is to improve year on year. There's no set targets about promotion by X year, by Y year, whatever. It's to improve year on year. Now, to me, as much as we love this season, imagine what team we're going to have next season, no matter what league we're in. So if we're improving, then that's, but the answers that he gave were sensible, logical, and filled you with absolute belief that the club's going in the right direction. Of course, all football fans, we all want it yesterday. We want success now. It's instant. But they didn't give answers to just fuel the hype. They could have said ridiculous stuff that we've heard before, and we hear not just at Notts. When anybody takes over anything, they come up with answers that they know will appease the punters, the fans, and say the right thing. But behind the scenes, I don't think that's what's happening. With Christopher and Alex, I think what you see is what you get is what they mean, and I think they're straight down the line. Hey, I've met them briefly a couple of 3 times, and don't know too much about them, but I think the way they come across has been absolutely exceptional, and should allay any fears of previous woes that we've experienced at Notts. That no, we're not in for that roller coaster ride with these two. They're a steady pair of hands, and they're going to guide us with sense and hopefully achieve that success along the way.
Yeah, and there's some good points you make there, Stella, and for me, they were very straight talking, and I think they also didn't just make bold statements. So that when, for instance, asked them about the training ground, there's probably quite a few of our fans would love us to have our own training ground. We've not had one for donkey's years, but they were very realistic in what they said. they said we're happy where we are with the relationship with Forest and that training pitch, which is excellent. They weren't making false promises. Yeah, we're targeting this and we're going to, build an £8 million, da da da. And likewise, I thought on the academy, they were very honest as well. And it wasn't a case of, we're going to spend millions on the academy and have 13 homegrown players in the next 4 years. It was kind of, well, look, where we are at the minute, it's hard to get funding. And the kind of saying our focus is on the first team, getting players in and getting promoted. And I think the other point I kind of wanted, because I think some fans, we've debated this before, but I think perhaps some of our fans are under a slight misapprehension that, this Moneyball, easy glib phrase to use, we're signing players to make money. We're signing players, which they made perfectly clear, to get promoted. If you can turn a profit on them as well, great. You're signing them to get promoted because that is what we all want as quickly as possible. And I think as well they reaffirmed or were very realistic in terms of this is costing them money, and whatever Notts County are in the National League, it's costing them money, and it ain't costing them 50 grand a year either. It's costing them somewhere between £1 million and £2 million every year to run Notts County in the National League. I'd be interested to see, Stel, and you've been around the block a few times, I'd be interested to see at what point where Notts County can break even. Because out of 92 clubs 72 clubs in the Football League, 5 or 6 break even. I doubt it's more than that,
Yeah. Oh, I'd say you don't go into football with a just purely for making money. There's many reasons for it, and you talk about an actual break even as a single entity, a single business on its own, as you say, 5 or 6. I wouldn't even put it that high. Actually, break even. I would say they're all probably loss-making operations, but again, you hear them talking. It's what is a sustainable loss, effectively.
Yeah.
What is a sustainable amount that you can afford to fund it? And again, I'll always say with any owner, doesn't matter, or owners, you can't ask them to be richer than they are. We all want somebody to come in and have the wealth of a Middle Eastern state and have that money, maybe without the human rights connections and all that. But you can't make people be richer than they are. They can only fund what they can fund. And the fact that they're willing to fund it at all and, accept, whatever level of loss it is, like you're saying, it's not insignificant amount of loss, but they're savvy, they're clever, intelligent people who won't throw money away lightly. But they their business plan will show losses building up and how you then grow the club and other avenues and revenue streams that become available maybe when the club grows and when you get up through the football leagues, then everything grows with it. But like I say, the bottom line that I like, and I'm sure the fans will like, is that business statement that they had of they want the team to be better year after year after year. Well, if I know that it's easy said than done, but that's not like saying we want promotion this year and we want to be in League One in 3 years. We want to be in the Championship or the Premier League in 5. Something that's a sort of a willy-nilly sort of statement, but there's no plan to get there. It is improving year on year. That is achievable. It's difficult. It's absolutely difficult because football is not a black and white game, but it is achievable. And if they can go somewhere near doing that, then hopefully the success comes with it.
Yeah, and I hope that this is another big ask in a way, that common sense prevails among our fan base. There's a huge amount of goodwill at the moment, but I do find it quite ironic for those of us of a certain age, 40, 50 and above, whereby the achievements of Jack Dunnett in taking the club from the bottom tier, 90th position when he got the club, taking them into the top flight. Derek Pavis in the 3rd tier, taking them into the top flight. Both of those chairmen got a very, 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 very minimal appreciation and respect from the fan base. Derek is referred to derogatorily by sections of our fan base because of his Forest connection as the plumber. One of the modern wonders of the world, building Notts County 3 sides in 3 months to the stadium. And I just hope common sense prevails and that people show the owners ongoing respect. Not a doom merchant. Were we not to get up this year? Were we not to start well next season? Don't want people instantly then jumping on bandwagons, because we know football is so much like, particularly with social media now, isn't it? You are hero to zero. Up and Eric Ten Hag, yeah, brilliant. Fergie seal of approval. Winning culture, he's fantastic. Yeah, weekend 7-0. Yeah, the soonest Gary Neville debate, which was hilarious. I thought absolutely hilarious on the telly. But it just shows you how polarised things can become now.
Absolutely, yeah, and we know it. And as much as you appeal for, say about we need level heads, should we don't go up, and should we not get off to a great start, should things not go our way, it won't happen. It won't happen because it's never happened over time, and that's the thing with football. It's such an emotional game. But you're absolutely right in what you say, Paul, that they do deserve respect and everybody's sort of gratitude for what they're doing and will continue to do. And the common sense point where we can sit down on a Monday evening or a Thursday, whenever it might be, when there's no actual football on, and speak rationally and sensibly about football, goes out the window the minute there's a game on and there's 90 minutes of a Saturday, because your emotions spike and you can't control that. So I get that. I get, it's all part of why, social media, take it with a pinch of salt, because it's just people being emotional. It's an outpouring of, I've got to get something out there, whether it's bile or whatever, but you treat it, as it is intended. It's throwaway. It's, rubbish. So you're absolutely right. I think they've been, I've said it before, I said they've been exemplary owners since they took the helm. And you almost hope that Notts get success for numerous reasons this season, but one of them is to almost reward them lads for coming in, steadying the ship, and doing what they've done, and hopefully will continue to do for a long time to
come. Debate about Wrexham. Jurgen suggesting, which I think would be a very good idea, put the game on at the Meadow Club for those that can't get tickets. Not sure if Forest were at home on that Easter Monday, whether that would impinge upon that. I know it's normally away fans. I've no idea whether they are or they aren't, but I'm sure the club will come up with ideas so that those that can't get to the game can perhaps gather together. To be honest, I'm sure if Notts don't, the Navy will. Dave Willens and the boys are normally very, very switched on with those sorts of things. Is Charlie on duty Saturday? So ask Nick G. Stell or not?
I don't know. At this moment, I do not know. Like I've said it before, unbelievably, the BBC and Sky and we're waiting on for who is going to commentate. They don't make their decisions until the week of the games, like Tuesday and Wednesday. So, you wouldn't believe it. Maybe you would believe it, but it surprised me this season when I found that out. But no, I don't know.
Right, we should
I don't know who they're sending to babysit me.
Nick G and Ian Cooksey say no Premier League games on the 10th. So, may well be that the club are looking to put BT Sport on in the Meadow Lane Club. I am going to be interested. I'm not sold the tickets for that Wrexham game. Even with it being on telly, I'm sure they will be massively oversubscribed. But I think Notts put out a statement today saying they're still waiting to hear confirmation of the allocation from Wrexham. So until such point as they've got that, clearly they can't put any tickets on sale. I think that's about us done for tonight. Stel, as always, thank you so much for your time. We're hoping, not got a slot fixed yet, but we're hoping to have Dorking's manager, owner, chairman, you name it, he does it, on a little bit later this week. And I'm sure that will be, I won't need to say a lot. It will be very, very entertaining, I am sure. So we're in touch with Dorking as we speak. Tell you what, Stel, to be fair, you can't imagine many managers, can you, that would come into actually wants to come into the lion's den of the opponent's podcast a few days before they head up here. Fair play to him.
I mean, he's a proper character. The bits, I mean, I've seen clips of him where he's having a go in the dugout in the technical area where fans are giving him pelters, and then I think Dorking score and he turns around and gives them some back, like all in good nature. I think he's the sort of guy, the sort of character that can almost get away with that. You know what I mean? I think he's been a breath of fresh air this season, and likewise. But for that sort of reason, for the putting 300 quid behind the bars for the away fans, but it's a good PR. It's clever.
Exactly.
It's it makes you likable, isn't it? And for that reason, he'll get a lot of goodwill, and a lot of people like you will be hoping that Dorking do stay up in this division this season. Obviously, with no points on Saturday.
Absolutely. Final comment, and I think this sums up very well from Paul Brain. The club is nothing without its fans, but the fans wouldn't have a club were it not for decent owners. There you go. That's good, isn't it? A good way to end the show. Stel, thank you very much indeed. Thank you to all for your comments. Keep an eye out on social media for our show with Mark White later this week. And we look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care for now. Bye-bye.
Cheers.